Hello, everyone. Welcome to Not Easy to Broken. I hope you are doing great. Thank you so much for joining me here. I am Doran. I want to talk to you about 9 ways to achieve marital happiness. You know, my friend, everyone wants a happy marriage. Everybody wants to build a happy marriage. But what if you're doing it the wrong way? What if many of you, and not just you, but I remember when I got married, I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the skill set, I didn't fully understand what it is to really be the kind of husband that God wants me to be. And so I want to talk to you about, the new way, to achieve true happiness in your marriage. And here's the reality: it is not really a new way. But because most people and most couples have moved so far away from the biblical teaching of the Word of God relating to marriage, it would seem as though it's a new thing. But marriage is foundational. It was created by God from the beginning of time. And unfortunately, for many people, they have not really fully grasped the true essence of what it is to follow God and do marriage according to God's purpose and according to God's plan. And so I want to talk about how to really create true marital happiness, because I believe that God wants all of us to have a successful marriage. I don't believe that anyone get married in order for it to fail. But in order for you to build a successful marriage, there has to be principles that you need to follow. And these principles are rooted in the biblical teaching of God's word concerning marriage. And I know this is not the fancy stuff that people wants to hear. You want to hear the fancy, exotic stuff, vacations and date nights and, great sex and all of that stuff that you need to do in marriage. But if I may say that a lot of that are really overrated, because a lot of people are now looking at marriage from a perspective of what I can get, not what I can give, not how I am showing up to serve, to add value. And so, um, hey, welcome. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure to have you here. Absolutely. We're definitely going to talk, no doubt about it. And so when I look at marriage, when I look at we got to keep them sexy. Absolutely, yes, I do believe that. But I think we have to begin to also recognize and understand that the nature of marriage is more about honoring God. It is really more about seeing the greatness that God has in store for us relating to marriage. And so I want to talk about 5 principles. I want to talk about 5 principles that can transform your marriage, 5 principles that can transform your marriage. And if you follow these principles, I promise you, not asking you, I'm telling you that your life and your marriage is going to change. And I'm going to share a part of my story with you guys about how God revealed these things to me 28 years ago. And my wife and I, we've been married for 31 years. This past February 5th, we celebrated 31 years of marriage. And when God revealed this to me, the third year in our marriage, and I started to practice, I started to apply these principles, it was a game changer in our marriage and in our lives. And so, the first thing that you need to do in order to build a successful marriage is you need to have a relationship with God. And you may say to yourself, well, why do I need a relationship with God in order for me to build a successful marriage? The truth be told, that your spiritual life is the most important part of your life. And if you do not have a spiritual relationship, your spiritual life is not right, it is very difficult for you to build anything. You're not relationally sound and you are not emotionally sound if you don't have a good relationship with God. And the Bible tells us in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26 that God said, let us make man in our own image, in our own likeness. Let him have dominion over everything. He gave us dominion over everything. And so God created us. We're created in the image and in the likeness of God. We were created by God to create. And if we are created rather by the creator, then we have the ability to create. We have the ability to build. We have the ability to do wonderful things in our lives and in our marriage. And so, if you notice the biblical principles of God and how He created everything. You begin to see that if you follow the principles, if you follow the blueprint, if you follow the template, you can't go wrong. What is the template? What is that foundational principles that we need to build our lives so that we can build better marriages? So the first thing that you need before you need a spouse, you need a relationship with God. And so when God created man in his own image and in his own likeness, we need to understand that there is an emptiness inside of us that only God himself can fill. Sex cannot fill it, money cannot fill it, fame cannot fill it, notoriety and marriage and all these different things cannot fill that void. That's why in Matthew chapter 6 and verse 33, it tells us to seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto us. Now, why do you need your life to be right with God? And why do you need to be spiritually sound? You really need to be spiritually sound because marriage is a choice. It is not an obligation. You don't need marriage to be happy. You don't need marriage to be fulfilled. You don't need marriage to be whole. Of course, marriage also help us to be more spiritually sound. It leads us towards Christ. But at the end of the day, we can't do it by ourselves, right? We can't do it by ourselves. Hello, we want to thank you for a great referral. Yes, absolutely. God bless you, man. Such a pleasure, Gene Cherry, yes, definitely. I know that you guys would have a lot of fun. And we are looking forward to meet you guys soon. No question about it. My wife and I, we're looking forward to meet you guys. Absolutely. And so when God created man, he makes sure that man need him more than you need a spouse. And let me just say this to you. If you need your spouse more than you need God, you have a problem. If you need to be married more than you desire a relationship with God, you are going to have a problem. Because after you get married, you're going to realize that marriage was not created by God to fulfill you. Marriage was not created by God to be all things to you. Marriage was not created by God for you to lose yourself in a marriage. And oftentimes that's what we see. We see couples get married and then all of a sudden they begin to feel like, oh, you know what? I can't do this marriage thing anymore. It is too difficult. It's complicated. Well, marriage is complicated if you're doing it by yourself. Marriage is complicated if you're doing it based on society pressure. Marriage is complicated if you're not taking the time to understand why God created marriage. What is the purpose of marriage? And also, what is the benefits of marriage? Most people go for the benefit. Most people go for, the sex, the babies, to build a life together, to have exotic vacations together, date nights together, the fancy IG reels and all of that stuff. That's not what marriage is about. That's not what it's about. And that is the reason why the first thing that you need, the first principle to build a successful marriage and to have a happy marriage, right? Is you need a relationship with God. And I learned the hard way. I thought when I got married 31 years ago that my wife could be all things to me. I thought when I got married, I can just pretty much, marriage and sex and date nights. And, my wife and I used to go all these different fancy vacations and hopping from hotel to hotels on the weekends and just lighting up the place, having orgasmic explosion all over the place. But after a while, you begin to realize that marriage is much more than sex. Marriage is much more than, two people that profess to love each other. It becomes deeper than that. And after the dopamine level and the oxytocin level and all of that chemicals that we are triggered in our body and the reality start to set in, and then you begin to realize that, man, I really need some skills to really do this thing called marriage right. And so the first thing that you need is you need a relationship with God. God must be your top priority. If God is not your top priority, you're going to have some problems. After a while, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to feel uh, um, just distant from each other. And we see that happen in a lot of marriages today, where people get married and they're excited. The first couple of years, you are just fired up about each other. You want to do life, you want to do God, you want to do marriage, but then after a while, you be like, oh, is this what marriage is about? Is this what it's all about? So if you're not spiritually sound, you're not relational and you're not emotionally sound. Okay. And so um, here's another thing that I want to bring to your attention. The second one is personal growth. Absolutely. We need a relationship with God. Number two, personal growth. When God created Adam, the first thing that God gave Adam was not a wife. God took the man that he created and put him in a garden, put him in an enclosure. He put him in a place to groom him, to build him, to cultivate him, to develop, to help him to become developed into the man that he was created to be. And so the Bible tells us in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15 that God took the man that he created and he placed him in the garden to work it and to protect it. You see, the reason why God did not create the man and the woman together, because God didn't want both of them to think that they need each other more than they need him. And so when we understand the nature of God, when we understand the principles of God's word relating to his design plan for marriage, you begin to realize something very powerful, that if your life is not right, if your life is not right, if you're not spiritually sound, number one, if you're not working on yourself, you're not becoming a better version of yourself. Can I just be real with you? You're going to have a problem, because the reality is that we don't have a marriage problem. Marriage is not the problem. The problem is with people that are getting married. The problem is the fact that people are coming into marriage, they are broken, they're damaged, they have issues, they are going through trauma, they have not dealt with the scars, they have not dealt with the pain, they have not dealt with the uncertainties and all the different things that has becoming negative in the marriage. It's impacting how you show up and how you serve in the marriage. And so God took Adam and he placed him in the garden, and God built Adam up. A man that is ready for marriage doesn't need his wife to be happy. A man that is ready for marriage doesn't need marriage to be fulfilled. A man that is ready for marriage, or a woman that is ready for marriage, does not need marriage to make them whole. You're supposed to be a happy person within yourself coming to marriage. You're supposed to be fulfilled within yourself coming into the marriage. Oftentimes, we're asking of marriage what it was not created by God to give. Marriage was not made by God to make you happy. Marriage was not created by God to complete you. Marriage was not created by God to fulfill all your desires and all your needs and all the things that you want. That's not what marriage is for. Marriage was created by God to honor him. You see, Adam and Eve were two complete human beings in the Garden of Eden. Remember that when God created Adam, the first thing that God gave Adam was work. Adam was a builder. Adam was a cultivator. Adam was nurturing, and he was building, and he was taking care of the Garden of Eden. Adam didn't even know that he was lonely. It was God who said it's not good for the man to be alone. I will create for him help. And then the Bible tells us that God put the man to sleep. He took a rib from the man and he created the woman, and then he presented the woman to the man. Now, here's the thing that I want to bring to your attention. What kind of man that God presented Eve to? God presented Eve to a man who was holy. God presented Eve to a man who was righteous. God presented Eve to a man that was fulfilling purpose, fulfilling destiny. Too many broken people are coming into marriage expecting that marriage is going to fulfill you. Too many people are coming to marriage asking for marriage, or asking of marriage what it was not created by God to give. Too many people are coming into marriage with your trauma, with your scars, with your pain, with the issues, and you have not fully unpacked. You have not fully worked on yourself. You have not fully healed. And here you are, that you are now coming to marriage and you are unpacking some of all of these different issues of your past relationships issues, past trauma, past pain, And now your spouse is dealing with some of the things that you should have dealt with in your season of singleness. Now, I know this is not easy for you to accept. I understand it because I was there. And it was not until God dealt with me. It was not until I surrendered my life to the Lord. It was not until I went to God and asked God to fix my life, to fix me, that I became better equipped and suitable to love and serve in my marriage. 90% of the time when we coach and we mentor couple, and when we look at their couples, and when we look at the assessment, when we collect the data, and we look at the assessment, we look at what they're dealing with, we look at the trauma, we look at the troubles, we look at the problems, we look at all the things that they are concerned about in their marriage. It always reflects back on the two of them, because marriage is not the problem. The problem is with people in marriage. The problem is the fact that people are not working to build themselves, to do the things that's necessary and needed to build the kind of marriage that you really want. And so if you come into the marriage asking of marriage what it was not created to give, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be lonely. You're going to feel broken. You're going to feel like, there are something is missing. And the truth be told, it's not what's missing from your spouse. The reality is what's missing in your life. It is not what you're asking your spouse to give. The question is, what are you bringing to the marriage? Your marriage is a reflection of you. The relationship that you have with your spouse, it is a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. Your marriage will never outgrow who you are. Talk to me. And that is the reason why the second principle for transforming your marriage is personal growth. If you're not growing, if you're not becoming a better version of yourself, how can you have a better marriage? And you are complaining to your spouse, and you are nitpicking, and you're asking your spouse to grow. You're asking your spouse to change. I went to God and I prayed to God and asked God to change my wife. I'm sitting here as a testament to our story. I was praying and I was asking God to change my wife. Did you hear what I tell you? I'm married for 31 years. I've known my wife since I was 5 years old. We were born and raised on the beautiful island of Jamaica. I still have the first letter that my wife wrote me over 30 plus years ago. This letter here, April the 10th, 1989, my wife wrote me this letter. I'm not making this up. This is our story. This is our reality. It's right here. The camera is not reflecting so you can see the date. You see that date right there? This is real. I am sharing my life with you. Known her since kindergarten, grew up together, known her all my life. We were the best of friends. I used to talk to her about girls that I like. She used to talk to me about boys that she liked. And at I was 17, turning 18 years old, and she was 17 at the time. And, all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't see her as a best friend anymore. We got saved in the same convention. We got baptized in the same baptismal service. I am talking about someone that I've known all my life. We dated. And then 4 years after, because my mother moved to the United States from Jamaica, and we had a long distance relationship. And then after a while, I began to realize something very unique about us. That, guess what? We were not equipped to love and serve in our marriage. And so I began to pray and ask God to change my wife, because I thought that she was the problem in the marriage. And while I was praying and asking God to change my wife, absolutely, Gene, this is real, man. I got so many nuggets and toys. And when I say toys, I'm talking about goodies here, books, and these are some of the letters that we wrote to each other because we had a long distance relationship. I can't make this up, man. I cannot make it up at all. I can't make it up. It's our reality. And it's a very interesting love story. And so when my mother moved from Jamaica and came here to live, it was really a blessing. Thank you so much, Holly Hall. I believe Oli. I believe I pronounced that right, for the super chat. I really appreciate you. Appreciate that. Um, and it was just amazing because here it is that I am married for for good evening to you. I'm married for 31 years, but when my wife and I decided to start dating and we were courting, my mother decided to move to the state. And it was about like 5 months after we started. So we spent years apart, long distance. Of course, I used to go back to Jamaica and visit, and do what I needed to do, guys, as I demonstrate and explain. But guess what? The reality is, I didn't get the tools. I didn't have the skill set. I did not get the data. I didn't get the information that I need, my friends, to figure out how to really coexist and build a marriage. Nobody taught, nobody teaches, nobody, a matter of fact, let me just be real with you that when we got married, it was the day before the wedding that the pastor came and was, telling us exactly what we need to do. I didn't know anything. But here it is that I met the woman of my dream and I was not in any position to really love her. Hello? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Here it is that you marry the woman of your dream, you marry the man of your dreams. It's somebody that you desire to love. And then after a couple of years in the marriage, you started to fight. You started to treat each other that like your enemy. That's what the devil wants to do. He wants you to think that you need another spouse. And I pray to God and ask God to change my wife. And God said to me that you don't have a marriage problem. Now, God said your wife is not the problem in the marriage. God said your wife is the one that you chose. The problem is that you don't know how to build a marriage with her. God said to me that you don't have a husband problem, you have a man problem. And until you become a better man, you are not equipped to love and serve in the marriage. Oh God, who am I trying to help tonight? Because some of you guys are praying to God and ask God to change your spouse. I got news for you. The person that is praying and asking God to change your spouse, you are the one that God is going to work on. You're the one that God is going to change. You're the one that God is going to start to work in first because God need your help to partnership with him to bring about change that you want to see in your marriage. That is the reason why we teach marriage from a godly perspective. Excuse me. And the first area that you need to work on is your spiritual life. If your spiritual life is not right, ain't nothing else in your life that is right. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Nothing else in your life is going to be right. And guys, please like and share. I would love you. I would love for you to do that for us. Appreciate you. Because here's the reality. You can't do marriage by yourself. Hello. I've been standing for my marriage. Absolutely, man. And keep standing for your marriage. Don't quit. Don't give up. Don't give in. I come from a divorce family. Um, um, yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. But here's the truth. God can restore broken marriages. And that's why I'm teaching about the biblical principles to help you to make your marriage work. So the first thing that we talked about is that you need a relationship with God. That is the first thing that you need in order for you to build a happy marriage. The second thing you need is you need personal growth. You need to grow spiritually. You need to grow as an individual. You need to grow as a person. Marriage is not the answer to your problems. Marriage will expose you for who you're not. Marriage will reveal the true character that is within you. Hello. If you can do marriage by yourself, you wouldn't have problems in your marriage. Can I ask you a question? If you have an S-Class 500 Mercedes Benz, Would you take it to Hyundai to get fixed? Would you take it to Toyota? Would you take it to BMW? Or would you take it to the manufacturer? You take it to the manufacturer, right? Because the manufacturer know more about the product than you. Why is it that people think that they can build a marriage without God? I listen, the moment I figured this out 28 years ago, I decided that listen, I can't do nothing. I can't do life without God. I cannot do marriage without God. And I make up my mind. I made it up in my mind that as long as I live, I will always yield my will to God. Absolutely. That's right. No, you cannot take it to anyone else, only to the manufacturer. Absolutely, woman of God, only to the manufacturer. And unfortunately, most people are not doing that. And if you're not taking it to the manufacturer, how can you know if you have a defect? You see, when you start praying to God and ask God to build you up, make you a better person, make you a better human being, you're going to be better equipped to love and serve in your marriage. I chose God. I decided that I am going to surrender my life and my marriage to God. And when I did that, everything started to work for me. I stopped waiting on my wife to change. And I became the change that she wanted to see. I became the change that I wanted to see in the marriage. You know, one of my favorite quotes is by Mahatma Gandhi, and it says, "You must be the change that you want to see in the world." I say that you need to be the change that you want to see in your marriage. That's why personal growth is so important. And see, God did not put the woman in Adam's life until Adam was fully developed into the man that God called him to be. Hello. It was God who said it's not good for the man to be alone. Adam did not experience loneliness. When you have a relationship with God, you cannot be lonely. You can feel you sometimes you can feel like you are alone, but there's a difference between loneliness and being alone. Some of you guys are married and you are alone. Hello. Let me let that sink in for a moment. You're married, you're in a relationship, and you feel alone. And the reason why you feel alone, because you're looking to a flawed human being to be all things to you. No spouse can be all things to you. You see, when I went to God and I prayed and asked God to fix my wife, and God told me that, listen, I'm not fixing her, I'm gonna fix you. And I began to realize that I didn't have a husband problem, I had a man problem. Adam didn't have a husband problem. Adam was developed into a man, and it was after Adam developed into a man that God brought the woman into his life. When God presented the woman to Adam, Adam was already a builder. He was a cultivator. He was a nurturer. He was an innovator. Adam was doing things that God wanted him to do. And let me tell you, my friends, as I begin to look into the lens of my life, I realize that happiness doesn't, you don't find happiness in a marriage. You come to the marriage with happiness. You don't find joy in a marriage. You come to the marriage with joy. You don't find peace from a marriage. You find peace in God and you bring that to the marriage. And so when we're asking of marriage what it was not created to give, it put this false, unrealistic expectations on our spouse to become all things to us when God is simply saying, man, I've already made you whole. I've already fixed you. I have already created you in my image and in my likeness, and I give you dominion and I give you power. I give you everything. And here it is that you're stressing yourself out, trying to fix or trying to get from a flawed human being what you can only get from God. So a wife can sacrifice her husband. Well, the truth be told that you can never find love until you're willing to sacrifice. That's where you find love, until you sacrifice, because love is a spiritual thing. Love is not physical. Love is spiritual. That's the reason why, if you really want to demonstrate love and learn about love, you have to know God. because God is love. First John chapter 4 and verse 4, First John 4 and verse 8, it tells us that he that loveth not knoweth not God, because God is love. His nature is love. His essence of being is love. Everything that God does, it flows from a place of love, for God so loved that he gave. That's the reason why you cannot experience love where you get. You experience love where you give. And so if you look at the rhythm of God's creation, you will see that everything that God does as it relates to love, it flows towards someone else. So love is not self-centered, it's other-centered. So you have to give in order to experience love. But unfortunately, most of us, we in our nature are takers. And so many of you guys have already overdraft and your love bank account, your marriage bank account. And it means that you're taken from rather than give to. So I tell men all the time that until you're willing to serve, you will never experience love. And the woman is the receiver of love, not the giver of love. Man is the giver. The woman is the receiver of love. Now I kind of changed the whole entire dynamic of my teaching tonight, but it's okay. Um, and so when you understand this, then you begin to realize that's why God told the husband to love your wife, even so as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Most people in marriage today, you come to marriage with a self-centered attitude. You come to the marriage with a mindset of what I can get or what my spouse can give. But my friend, you don't find love where you get. You find love where you give. So the third thing that you need to do in order for you to have a happy marriage, a successful marriage, is you need to respect the covenant of marriage. Most people in marriage today do not respect the covenant of marriage. To respect the covenant of marriage, it means that you do exactly what God tells us to do. In Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24, God tells us to leave. Wherefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. What does that even look like? Well, here's the reality. When you get married, you are not merging a family. You are leaving your family and you are creating a family of your own. I'm going to say that again. You are leaving a family and you are creating a family of your own. Marriage is not a contractual agreement. It is a covenant relationship. That's the reason why the devil hates marriage, because whatever God loves, the devil hates. God loves marriage, the devil hates marriage. God loves family, the devil hates family. God loves covenant, the devil hates covenant. So when the Bible tells us in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24 that wherefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Can I share this with you? When a man get married, your wife becomes the most important person in your life. Not your mother, not your sister, not your brother, not your friends, not your career, not your ministry, not your church. Your wife. Your wife is the most important person. Outside of your relationship with God, your wife becomes the most important person in your life. And the reason why most of you guys can't do marriage right is because you have not really leaving and cleaving to your wife. See, the reason why God didn't tell the woman to leave her family and cleave to you is because the woman needs your protection. The woman needs you to build a life that she can feel safe in. So when you think about the relationship that you have with your husband, wives, and the wives, husband to your wife, understand this. Let me break it down to you. Why it is really important to understand this concept, the biblical teaching of marriage. When the Bible said that wherefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh, because when you consummate the marriage, through a sexual encounter. The man and the woman, the husband and the wife, you become one, like our Adam and Eve were one in the Garden of Eden before God put the man to sleep, took a rib from the man, and created the woman. So your wife becomes the most important person in your life outside of your relationship with God. And I know culture and I know traditions. They tell you that you are merging your family. No, you're not merging your family. You are leaving your family and you are creating a family of your own. The reason why the woman does not leave her home is because she needs the security and the protection of her father. I wish I had time to teach this to you. I'm gonna say it again. She always needs the protection and the security of her father. So absolutely, yeah. A lot of husband doesn't understand this. They don't, and the reason why they don't understand it is because they're not following the biblical teaching of marriage. That's why marriage is so dysfunctional today. Because society does not have a blueprint. Society does not have a model. Society does not have a template. Society does not have the principles for making marriage work. Only God does. And for those of you that think that marriage outdated and it is not relevant, why is it that society cannot find anything better to replace it? Because they didn't create it. God did. Talk to me. So watch this. So the man leave his father and the mother and he cleaves to his wife. The woman always need protection. That's why she never leaves home. Never leaves home. The husband is to go to the father, go to the parents. You know, when I was getting married to my wife, I went to her parents and I asked for her hand in marriage. And I remember I was living here at the time and my wife was in Jamaica. And I went to Jamaica and I asked her father and her mother for her hand in marriage. And I remember when I show up at the house and ask the father that I want to marry your daughter. We've been friends, we've been dating for a while, we have a long distance relationship, and I would like to marry her and make her my wife. And he looked at me and he said to me, "What make you think that you are qualified to marry my daughter?" I looked at him and I said, "Well, because I know that I am the man that God have called to be her husband, and I'm going to love and respect and honor her." And my wife mother burst out laughing. I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, she laughed. She laughed so hard, man. Like this young 22-year-old guy is talking about he wants to marry my daughter. It's hard when a woman never grew up having a father. Yes, this is, yeah, let me pin that real quick. Bright Eye Nikki says it's hard when a woman never grew up having a father in the household for that security and protection. Absolutely. And it's one of the reason why um we are so dysfunctional in our lives because we didn't see a template, we didn't see a model. The same thing happened for me. I didn't grow up with my father. I met my father for the first time in 2019. I was 48 years old when I met my father. You don't think that impacted my life? Absolutely impacted my life. And I talked about it in previous, you know, videos and YouTube live or Instagram live that I've done. I met my father for the first time in 2019. That impact how I was serving in the marriage in the first 3 years of my marriage. 2019, I married my wife all over again. I literally remarry her. And if you go to our Instagram page and you go to the highlight, you'll see pictures. I said that she's so nice. I decided to marry her twice. I took her to London. From London, I took her to Paris. Actually, no, we went to London. We went to Paris first, and from Paris, we took a speed train to London. From London, we came back to New York, where I live in, and then we were on a plane the next day going to Jamaica to celebrate. And it was while I was in Jamaica that I found out where my father was. and I hired somebody to take me to see him. So who we are is based on our past, but who we become, it is based on us. And so I didn't allow what happened to me to become the template that I used to live. I can say that that has been a part of my journey, but it has not become the catalyst in what I had an example, all male, or absolutely. So so here's the reality. Let me get back to what I was saying. So when I went to her father and asked for her hand in marriage, her father asked me, "What make you think that you are qualified to marry my daughter?" And I said, "Well, because I'm a good man, and I've known your daughter all my life since I was in kindergarten, and I believe that God have called me to be a good husband to her." Her mother laughed, and she was laughing hard because here's it, this young man left Jamaica at 18 years old and came back at 22, 23, asking for, their daughter hand in marriage. And yeah, they gave me their blessing because, hey, listen, I was serious about it. And I remember when I was getting married, I was at the altar, and her father walked her down the aisle. And the officiating officer asked the question, "Who gave this woman to be married to this man?" And her father said, "I do." And at that point in time, the officiating officer said to me, "Go and get your bride." And I walked up, I took her, and then I walked down to the altar where he performed the ceremony. Absolutely. So watch this. At that moment, there was a transfer of responsibility from the father to me as the husband. That is the reason why when I see men crying at the altar now when they're getting married, the crocodile tears. Man, listen, man. I tell men all the time when I do premarital counseling, listen, man, if you're gonna cry for your wife when you see her, cry because of these reasons. You're crying because you are about to lay down your life for her. You're crying because you are about to sacrifice for her daily. You're crying because you're going to yield your will to God so that you're going to learn exactly how to love and serve in your marriage. You're crying because you are now the priest and the covering over her life. You're crying because now you have a responsibility to love, to serve, to honor her. But no one wants to do that now. So everybody's crying. I don't know why the tears. Because a lot of them are crying because they want their video to go viral. They're crying because they want to have a trending moment on social media. I tell people all the time that most couples used to have better marriage before they become addicted to social media. It is one of the reasons why I teach marriage from a godly perspective. Some of y'all won't like what I teach on this channel because it's not the fancy stuff that you like to hear. But I'm teaching you principles that if you apply it to your life and you surrender your life to God, you surrender your marriage to God, you yield your will to God, your life will be different, my friend. Hello. The Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 22 that he who findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtain favor from the Lord. A man is favorable when he finds his wife. Why? Because guess what? She is God's daughter. And just like a father give you permission or give you approval or give you the blessing to marry his daughter, God is giving you blessings just because you are a good man to his daughter. Hello? Did you get that? So, man, I get so excited when I teach about these things, man, because people are jacked up, messed up, and you come into marriage asking of marriage what it was not created to give you, and you're just messing up somebody else's life because your life is a mess. You have so much luggage or baggage in your luggage, and you are unpacking some scars and things that you should have worked through, and you are impacting the next person's life because your life is not right. And here's the problem that I have with a lot of couples today. You're selfish. You're self-centered because you know that you're not fit for marriage, and you know you come to the marriage broken, and you're not working on yourself to become a better version of yourself so that you can be better equipped to love and serve in your marriage. Marriage is about sacrifice. Marriage is about serving. Marriage is about giving. Marriage is about yielding your will to God daily. Marriage is about showing up when showing up is the last thing that you want to do. That's why you have to respect the covenant of marriage. That is the third principle. Respect the covenant of marriage. I respect marriage more than the love that I have for my wife. I'm going to let that sink in for a moment. I'm going to say it again. I respect marriage more than the love I have for my wife, because I am in a covenant relationship, and God set parameters and set principles that governs marriage, because it's not a man thing, it's a God thing. It is the first thing that God created, marriage. And guess what? In the end, in Revelation, there's going to be a marriage too. Oh my God. I'm just saying. So the moment I respect marriage, guess what? I'm obligated to love and honor and serve my wife in marriage. God tells me to love my wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. I can't do that in my flesh. I need the help of the Holy Spirit to love my wife that way. That is the reason why I tell folks all the time that your therapist is not the answer to your marital problems. Your therapist is a guide. Your therapist is supposed to lead you to the source. Your therapist is supposed to lead you to the answer. Your coach, your mentor, your counselors are supposed to lead you to the answer. God created marriage. Everything that man touches, they mess it up. So if men mess up everything that we touch because of our sin nature, why would you want to depend on a man more than you depend on God to help you to fix your marriage? I want you to think about that for a moment. Okay? The fourth thing that you need in order for you to build a successful marriage and be happy in your marriage, you need relational and emotional intimacy. Relational and emotional intimacy or emotional connection. What does that look like? The Bible tells us in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 23 that after God put the man to sleep, he took a rib from the man, he created the woman, and he presented the woman to the man. When Adam opened his eyes and he saw this beautiful, this gorgeous, this wonderful, amazing, beautiful. I mean, Eve was just fine. She was absolutely undeniably beautiful. Gravity was not pulling her down. Her breast was right where it's supposed to be. Her hips, her lips, her fingertips. I mean, she was just fine. When Adam saw her, Adam was so captivated and mesmerized by her beauty that Adam looked at her and says, "Hey, beautiful, wow, whoa. You are bone of my bone. You are flesh of my flesh. I will call you woman because you came out of me." Mm, did you get that? That's exactly what Adam says. At last, there's someone that I can relate to. At last, I have someone that I can connect to. And that's exactly what Adam did. Adam connected with Eve on that level. Now, I'm about to bring this to a close because I don't want to be long winded, right? Emotional and relational intimacy. I want you to hear me. Emotional and relational intimacy, it's at that level that you really get to know your spouse. It is at that level that you really get to know your spouse. How do you get to know your spouse on that level? Because at that level, it is where you create that bond. You know, women are relational by nature. If a man knows exactly how to communicate with his wife, he knows exactly how to add value to her life, he knows how to pour into her. I tell husband all the time that your wife is, she is a fertile ground. Mm. She is a fertile ground. A womb is not just designed to push out babies. It is not just for sex. It is really to add value to your life. Did you get that? What does that mean? What am I saying? Let me break it down to you. You see, the woman came from the man. She's always desiring to connect to who she came from. That's why relational and emotional intimacy is so critical to a woman. She needs it. She cannot survive without it. Relational and emotional connection, emotional intimacy, it is one of the things that a woman gravitate towards. And let me bring this to you. If you notice during the embryo stage of any relationship, a woman connect with a man on the relational level. That's why any man that knows how to communicate, knows how to listen, knows how to really engage his wife in meaningful conversations will always be at an advantage when it comes to intimacy with your wife. So when Adam saw Eve for the first time, he just speak into her life. Because Adam knew that if I can get into her mind, allow her to understand that, listen, baby, we are one. You and I, we are one. You're not lesser than me. You're not subservient to me. I'm not here and you're here. We are one. You were created from my loin. And here's the reality. When you get married and you consummate the marriage, you and your wife become one together again. I have a card here. This card, my wife and I, we do this demonstration all the time when we coach couples. The black is the husband, right? Locking arms around his wife. The blue and the white is the wife locking arms around her husband. You see this gap right here? This is the problem. The enemy doesn't want you to close this gap. The enemy doesn't want you to get better. He doesn't want you to get closer. He doesn't want you to have the relationship that honor God and gives you the desire to love and serve each other. So he create a gap between the both of you. And he wants to come between the two of you guys so that you cannot become one. So anytime you start to grow together, you're getting closer. When you start to love each other, you're getting closer. When you start to build a life together, when you start to communicate, you're getting closer. When you have a better relationship with God, you're getting closer. When you work on your personal growth and development, you're getting closer. And the closer you get to each other is the stronger your marriage will get. And so the weight of the marriage, the vicissitude of life, the pangs of life, the weight of life, the pressure of life, it wasn't designed to break you. It was designed by God to make the knot stronger. And the more I press or the more I pull on this knot is the stronger the knot gets. And when you cover your relationship, cover your marriage by God, you are covered by God. So you are interwoven by God. Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 12, it tells us that a cord of three strand is not easily broken. You become stronger. Under pressure, you become stronger. So the knot is bonded and fused together. You see what I mean? And so when I try to pull this knot apart, it is harder for me to pull it apart. It's much difficult because guess what? The weight and the pressure while you are under the power of God's love and God's grace and God's mercy, it makes the marriage stronger. Well, let me land this. Let me bring it home to you. Blessing to you, Tiffany Brown. Pleasure to have you. So, before I do a recap, the relational intimacy, the relational connection between the man and the woman, it is what allow you to build the relationship on the soul level. Relationship is built on the friendship level, but the bonding and the fusing is done at the soul level. And it's at the relational and the emotional level that the soul intertwine together. Did you get that? So, number five, you need to learn how to make your marriage work. A happy marriage is not by happenstance, it's not by accident, it is a planned event. And if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. The Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 24, verse 3 and 4, by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge its room is filled with precious and pleasant riches. Ooh. Do you have treasures in your marriage? Do you have riches in your marriage? Can I ask you a question? Is your marriage rooms filled with precious and pleasant treasures? Because in order for you to have those, guess what you need? Guess what you need? You need knowledge, you need wisdom, and you need understanding in order for you to make your marriage work. What about communication? How is your communication style? How do you communicate with your spouse? Hello, talk to me. What about how you deal with your money? My wife and I have been married for 31 years. We have never bounced a check. We have never spent more than our net income. We have never borrowed money from anyone to do anything. Did you hear what I just tell you? You hear what I just say? We never spend more than our net income. My wife and I never argue about money. We have disagreement about money because maybe I want to spend it by lending it to people. And I'm always doing that. I'm a giver. I love to serve. I love to give. And sometimes people take your kindness for weakness. Talk to me. And sometimes I'm glad that my wife had to say, babe, you know what? You got to stop because if I leave it up to you, you give away the last dime we have in the account. And my friend, let me just say this to you, and I kid you not, that when my wife and I decided that we're going to lock arms together and work on this thing together, listen, I don't brag and I don't boast, but we have a good life. We start with nothing, but we get the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding of how to build a marriage. Love alone don't make your marriage work. Everybody that is going through marital problems right now, we're lovers. Everyone that end up in divorce, we're lovers. Do you know that you can love each other and don't know how to serve in a marriage? Did you know that? Can I help you? That's right. What is that? Bright Eye said that she's always she's generous. Yeah. But yeah, I had to learn, man. My wife was like, dude, listen, you gotta be careful because when emergency happens, who are you gonna call? And that was the only arguments that my wife and I have in our 31 years of marriage. Not because I'm spending money buying things that I can't afford, not because I'm wasting money or she's wasting money. We don't do those things. And in our marriage makeover coaching program, we have an in-depth lesson on marriage and finances. I see people buying fancy stuff and all of that stuff. And you know what's sad about it? If something should happen to you, do your spouse have money to bury you? What about you know life insurance policy? These things are important when it comes to marriage, and we teach these things. And let me just share this with you. The last principle that we talked about, learn how to make your marriage work. You need to learn how to communicate better. You need to learn how to manage your emotion better. You need to learn how to manage your finances. You need to learn how to deal with conflicts. You need to learn how to teach your spouse to love you, how to communicate to them. You need to learn exactly how to take care of your body in our marriage makeover coaching program. And if you guys want to learn more about our coaching program, there's a link in our bio. You can actually book a free consultation, clarity call. I'll interview you, find out where you are, find out if you qualify, find out if what you're going through fit what we share in our program. And it's 12 weeks of intense coaching and teaching, transforming your life, because we don't help you to fix your marriage because you don't have a marriage problem. You are the problem in marriage. Your spouse is the problem in marriage. And until you get your life right, your marriage will never be right. Hello. If something should happen to me right now, my wife does not have to lose our home. My wife does not have to get married again just because she needs to get somebody to put into her life so that she can be able to take care of herself or make ends meet. I'm not a multimillionaire. Matter of fact, I still have a job. I still work as an engineer. God doesn't release me from my job yet. Hello. My wife worked as an executive for a law firm, but someday would like to not go to work and do what we do full time, because this is my passion. Outside of my relationship with God and outside of my wife and my two sons, nothing drives me more, nothing excites me more than teaching about marriage from a God-centered place. I don't want to be famous on YouTube. That's the last thing that I want. I don't want to be famous. I want to be known. I don't want to be popular. I want to be effective. I want when people show up, they get a word that's going to inspire them. I'm not a motivational speaker. I don't care about motivating anyone. You know what I care about? I care about inspiring you. Inspire. When you are inspired, you get your butt off that couch, you get your butt off binge watching on television and Netflix, and you go out there and do the work. And that's when you're going to become motivated. You're motivated through your work. You're not motivated by a person. Ain't nobody can motivate you. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm an inspirational leader. I want to inspire you through the word of God, that you listen, that you practice, that you apply so that you can get the result that you're looking for. Hello. I don't teach you what I know. I teach you what I live, and I teach you what I believe. I know a lot of stuff that I don't want to tell you. I don't want to talk to you about it. But I believe in God. I believe that He's the author of marriage. I believe that He created it in the Garden of Eden. The first miracle that Jesus did took place at a wedding. Jesus tells us to love our wives as Christ loved the church and gave Himself for it. It's a kingdom thing. Marriage is a reflection of God's love for man and Christ's love for the church. It is a God thing. Don't mess around with this thing. Don't come to the marriage jacked up, messed up, and you don't do anything to fix your life. So, can I share this with you? Let me drop this on you. real quick. Do you know that when you get married and you and your spouse have sex, you consummate the marriage and the two of you are one, literally one, to the point where you can't separate the two of you anymore. I'm telling y'all, man, I'm gonna teach this thing. Some of y'all gonna have to unfollow this page because I'm not gonna sugarcoat nothing. When you get married and you consummate the marriage, you and your spouse become one. The Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 19 and verse 6 that they are no more two, but they're one. Wherefore, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. The word asunder, it means to rip, it means to tear, it means to separate. This is not the fancy stuff, my friend. You are obligated to be better. You are obligated to God and to your spouse to become the best version of yourself. I've often maintained that when you get married, you marry four people: the person you date, the person you court, the person you marry, and the person they're going to become because of marrying you. Can you honestly say that your spouse is better off because of you? Can you honestly say that your spouse is better off because of you? Are you the kind of spouse you love coming home to? Which means that whatever problem and whatever trauma, whatever issues that you have, whatever you have dealt with in your life before marriage, if you didn't take the time to unpack those issues, those trauma, those childhood trauma, and what happened to you, you are impacting your spouse in a negative way and you don't even realize it. I've often say that some people come to the marriage with a lot of baggage. And then there are those that come to the marriage with a U-Haul truck full of stuff. And you just unload it on your spouse. And they didn't see this coming. And it's not fair. And the sad thing about it is some of you guys know that these things are impacting your marriage and you're not doing anything about it. Hello. And so you need knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to make a marriage work. Love alone won't make your marriage work. Sex won't make your marriage work. Romance is overrated. Love is not a feeling. Love is who you are. Love is what you become. Love is what you give. The Bible tells us in Galatians chapter 5 and verse 20, verse 22, that the fruit of the Spirit is love. Why do you think it's too late for you? It may be too late for me. It's never too late. Miss Hall, it's never too late. God has the final say. God has the final say. I want you to trust God in your life and trust your relationship with God more than you trust the man that you love. I'm a radical when I teach about marriage because my job is not to make my wife happy. I refuse to make her happy. It's not my job to make her happy. My job is to love her. My job is to serve. My job is to show up. He married to someone else. Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that. Some people look for another spouse when all they needed was some new routine and some new plan of actions in their marriage. That's a fact. I'm going to do a teaching. Maybe I do it live. I'm trying to set up a schedule where I can come on live at least once a week. Would you guys like that? That I come on live once a week? And I'm going to bring my wife on too, and we're just going to chop it up and talk to you and pour into you, add value to you. Because a lot of stuff that you're hearing on social media right now, it is why your marriage is crazy. It's not God centered. It's not God centered. Marriage has now become something that we want somebody to make us whole. We want somebody to be our what they call it, our destiny mate. We want our we want to find a person that can help us to fulfill our purpose. Really? Really? The only time you need marriage, the only time you need marriage is when you decide that you want to share your life with another human being in the covenant of marriage. Not because you need marriage to make you happy, not because you need marriage to make you whole. God already took care of that. And if you go back to the beginning in the Garden of Eden, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. I am grateful. Um, I'm grateful for finding your YouTube. I'm single and preparing. Absolutely. I believe that um, your season of singleness is the best time to prepare for marriage. You don't prepare for marriage while you're in marriage. But a matter of fact, let me just say this to you. My husband is how is out to order with God. Yes, absolutely. Um, let me just share this with you. Let me share this. You said once a week, right? You like me to come on once a week, woman of God, right? Okay, all right. I try to figure out. I try to figure out a schedule. Um, I try to figure out a schedule, no doubt. Um, here's the reality: God did not prepare Adam for marriage. Ooh, I'm gonna mess you all up with my teaching. God did not prepare Adam for marriage. Let me let that sink in. God didn't prepare Adam for marriage. God prepared Adam for life because marriage is a choice. Marriage is not an obligation. My brother, wow, my brother's in the house. Melvin is here, man. What's up? Brother Melvin is in the house. Keep it coming. Absolutely, man of God. God did not prepare Adam for life. Let that sink in for a moment. I'm going to say it again. God did not prepare Adam for life. God prepared Adam to become a man. God prepared Adam to be righteous. God prepared Adam to have a relationship with him. God prepared Adam to fulfill his purpose, to fulfill his destiny. Adam didn't even know he was lonely. Adam have never experienced loneliness. He was too busy accomplishing the things that God assigned him to in the Garden of Eden. It was God who said it's not good for the man to be alone. And so when I hear people say that Adam was lonely and he needed a wife, that's why God created Eve. No, that's not biblically sound. God did not create Eve because Adam needed her. It was God who needed Eve so that its creative plan and purpose can and should and will be accomplished. That's why God created Eve. It's not because Adam needed her. If you need marriage to be happy, to be whole, to be fulfilled, you don't really need marriage. You really need God. Because Adam had everything. It was God who said it's not good for the man to be alone. I will create for him help. Do you also know that when God created Eve for Adam, God created Eve for the man was not created for the woman was created for the man. And for those of you that think that that is sexist and you are anti-woman or whatever, listen to me. If you understand the word of God and you understand the biblical principles of God's word and marriage, and you realize that Adam and Eve was in an enclosure, they were under an open heaven. The Bible tells us that God peace was upon them. Shalom, peace. They were in harmony with God. And so Eve was presented to the man. The question you need to ask yourself, what kind of man did God presented Eve to? Ooh, I'm teaching good. God presented Eve to a man who was holy. God presented Eve to a man that was righteous. God presented Eve to a man that was a builder. God presented Eve to a man that is a cultivator. God presented Eve to a man who had a relationship with God. God presented Eve to a man that knows how to communicate. God presented Eve to a man that was relationally and emotionally sound. That's the kind of man that God presented Eve to. You think a woman have a problem with that kind of man? You think that if I say to a woman that meet that kind of man, that God didn't make the man for you, God made you for the woman. I mean, God made, did I said it wrong? No, God didn't make the woman for the man. God made the man for the woman. I just mess it up. I guess I'm tired. But y'all get the message. God did not made the woman to rule over the man, or God did not made the man to rule over the woman. They were given dominion to occupy the earth. But God created the woman for the man, and then he presented her to him. And then Adam looked at Eve and said, at last, finally. And fear, what was that? And fear and have respect for God. So you will want to do marriage right. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not hocus pocus, man. I'm taking you back to the Bible. I'm taking you back to the beginning. And once you go back to the creative plan that God has for marriage, you can do marriage right. Then that's when you're going to find happiness, not in a marriage, but in yourself, that you demonstrate happiness in the relationship. And so when God created Eve, Adam and Eve were companion in the Garden of Eden many, many years before they became husband and wife. Most people don't teach about that. But between Genesis chapter 2 and verse 18, when God said, it's not good for the man to be alone, I will create a helpmate suitable for him. And Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24, when God finally bring them together and perform the first marriage, Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24, wherefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. There is a long space between those two. Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden being companion. Let me ask you a question. When you just, decided to get married, or decided to that you need a companion, do you just seek marriage or you seek friendship? What do you seek first, marriage or friendship? I realized that I was a wife and not a helpmeet. Well, here's the reality, Oli. And I think that you are blaming yourself for a lot of what happened in your marriage, but I think that your husband also must take accountability for how he showed up in the marriage. I think the last time we spoke, you told me that, have you been on the last live that I did? I want to make sure that I'm speaking to the right person. Right, Oli Hall? Were you on the last live that I did? And you mentioned, um, I think you were, right? Yes. Are you from Australia? Or I don't remember if you were from Australia, or I probably, maybe I'm mistaken you for someone else, but I'm not sure. If you are from Australia, then I kind of remember your marriage situation. But if you're not, um, oh, you're from Oklahoma, so you're someone different then. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about it. But yes, you were on the last, and we were talking about it. The first book of Adam. Melvin, what are you saying? The first book of Adam and Eve will extend our knowledge about their relationship. Yes, absolutely. Genesis. Genesis. A matter of fact, um, uh, Melvin is in our coaching program. Okay, and that's Melvin. Cut, cut colon. Is that, did I pronounce that right? Melvin is in our coaching program. Oh, what did I just do? Hold on a second here. Sorry about that, guys. Um, and um, and we teach 5 principles for transforming your marriage. And the first principle is your relationship with God. I don't remember where I was. Um, I don't remember. What was I talking about? Kind of, I lost my train of thought. But y'all get the message, right? Um, the more that you understand the biblical principles and teaching of marriage, it is the more you're going to begin to realize that you cannot do marriage without the one who created it. Um, um, in our coaching program, I teach men how to become practitioner of love. Right, Melvin? Melvin is now a practitioner of love. He's now a practitioner. Okay. And he's practicing on his wife daily. Because I believe that when you do a marriage right, marriage will work for you. And it's sad that people walking away from their marriage right now when they need to move closer to God, they're moving away from God. I think we are supposed to be at number 4. Actually, no, I passed number 4, woman of God. I'm actually number 4 is relational and emotional intimacy. I spoke about that. Relational and emotional intimacy. I'm actually wrapping up right now. Number 5 is you need to learn how to make marriage work. And to do that, you need education. Yep. Melvin is the man, bro. That's my brother right here. Okay. And I don't play, I teach right. So let me recap. In order for you to have a happy marriage, number 1, you need a relationship with God. Your relationship with God is the most important part of your life. You will never do life, you will never do marriage right without God. The Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 6 and verse 33 that we must seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto us. Romans chapter 14 and verse 17, I believe, it tells us that the kingdom of God is not meat or drink, but it is righteousness, it is peace, and it is joy in the Holy Ghost. Hello, talk to me. And the second principles for making marriage work is number 2. Here's what you need: personal growth. Are you growing spiritually? Are you growing? Mm. Growth is a separator. Your marriage will never grow without you. It will never extend more than you are. Can you repeat number 4 and 5? Yeah, I'm gonna go through that now. Um, Personal growth. Your marriage is a reflection of you. It will never outgrow who you are. The relationship that you have right now, it's a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. The marriage that you have right now, it's a reflection of the both of you. You don't have a marriage problem. You have a you problem in marriage. Yes, you. I'm speaking to you. You have a problem in marriage. Marriage is one of the most distinguished entity that God created. And let me tell you something, you are a member in the institution, a member in the covenant of marriage. And most of you have already violated your membership, just like I violated my membership by not knowing how to love and serve in my marriage. So until you get better, your marriage will never be better. Number 3, you must respect the covenant of marriage. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24. Wherefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Oh, yes, Lord. You have to respect the covenant of marriage. You have to show up and build your life and build your marriage. Your wife becomes the most important part of your life, not your mama, not your sister, not your brother. And if you're a mama's boy, you need to put on your big boy underwear and leave your mama and treat your wife like she is the most important person in your life outside of your relationship with God. I grew up with five sisters. I'm the only brother among five sisters. And I tell them from day one, if I have to choose between any of you guys, I'm going to choose my wife. My mother, God bless her soul, 2016, she went home to be with the Lord. And she knew from day one. I told my wife that you did not lose a son, but you gained a daughter. And don't you put me in any position that I have to feel like I have to compromise between my wife and you. You didn't lose a son, you gained a daughter. Hello? That's what real man does. That's what we do. Take care of our home. We set boundaries to protect it. So you must respect the covenant of marriage. You're not what I called. You are not merging a family. You're creating a family of your own. I said that, right? And number four, relational and emotional intimacy. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 23. Wherefore, no, that's not it. Um, Adam said, you're a bone of my bone, you are flesh of my flesh. I will call you woman because you came out of me. And then finally, that relational intimacy, that relational connection, it is what create that bonding. It's what create great friendship. It is where you are connected at the soul level. You create a safe place where you and your spouse can thrive and flourish in. Hello? And then number five, you must learn how to make your marriage work. In other words, you need education. Love alone don't make a marriage work. Your romantic love is overrated. Romance is overrated. I'm going to say it again. Romance in a marriage is overrated. And sometimes that's all you come to the marriage with. And you think that you can just sex your way to a successful marriage. No, you can't. After a while, you have to learn how to create love because love is created. The act of love leads to intimacy. The act of love leads to vulnerability. The act of love leads to security. The act of love leads to great friendship. The act of love leads to trustworthiness. The act of love leads to faithfulness. The act of love leads to great cataclysmic orgasmic explosion. You can have great sex, but that doesn't make a marriage work. It's a great initiator of friendship and connection. But when it comes to building a marriage, the feeling doesn't change the action, but the action changes how you feel. That is the reason why you don't feel and then you act. You act to create the feeling. That's why love is not a feeling, my friend. Love is an action. Did you get that? Did you get that? So you need education. The Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 24, verse 3 and 4, through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge its room is filled with precious and pleasant treasures. Hello. Tiffany Brown said, I said, Lord, my husband left, and I will stay focused on you, Lord. And Lord, right, you sit high and looks low, and the Lord word let him go. He wants to, if he wants to go, I will keep praying for my husband's heart and soul. Okay, I hope I read that right. Well, my friend, listen, can I share this with you? Marriage is not yours to build. It is not mine to build. Marriage is yours to surrender to the one who created it. A lot of times we are asking of our spouse what they were not created to give. And it's one of the reasons why we get frustrated and we get overwhelmed. Um, Friends and friends and mothers was always first, in my opinion. Um, oh, really? You were last? Well, as I said, a lot of us are doing marriage the wrong way. And that's why marriage doesn't work. Because marriage will reveal to you who you are and who you're not. It's one of the most effective revealer of character. But then marriage is also a great builder of one's character. I had to grow. I had to become a better version of me. All right. So I gotta run. I gotta go. Any question for me before I go, real quick? Hello. Any question? I hope you were blessed tonight. Were you blessed, guys? If you're not following my page, can you hit that follow button? Can you hit that follow and like and share and like? Mm. Hello. All right, guys, I'm going to land this plane. It was absolutely a pleasure having you guys here with me. I stayed a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I hope that you guys were blessed. Thank you. Wow, you still on here, millennial money, mom money magnet. I forgot how to pronounce your name. I'm gonna have to learn your name. Definitely good teaching. Amen. Thank you. Thank you guys. And if you guys want me to discuss any topic in my videos or use your information without disclosing your name and your um you can actually email. I'm gonna tell you where you guys can email us. I'm gonna tell you right now. Give me 1 minute. Let me pull it up in my uh you can email us at asknoteasily.broken at gmail.com. That's asknoteasily.broken at gmail.com. Let me put it in the chat real quick. And what I'm going to do is I will read your email and I will I will uh, at Gmail. There you go. Um that's it. That's the email if you guys want to just copy it and yeah, just subscribe to support your channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Jean. I really appreciate you and appreciate your wife. Um, what we do here is to add value to your life. And for those of you that are new, welcome. My name is Doran. My wife is Joan. Been married for 31 years of marriage. And this page or this YouTube channel is all about helping you to build a marriage and do it God's way. And we teach you how to build marriage, those marriages that are dysfunctional, that is out of touch with the true essence of what marriage is. We help you to restore those marriages through personal growth, spiritual growth aligned with the word of God. And if you desire to learn more about our coaching program, there's a link in our bio. Um, and there's also a link in the description of this video where you can book a free clarity call with us, and we help you um, to build a better marriage through what we teach you. We teach you the 5 principles for transforming your marriage through our marriage makeover coaching program. And if you're serious about growth, you're serious about where you are, keep us in prayer. I will, Miss Hall. I will keep you guys in prayer, and um, don't forget to trust God. Trust Him even in a moment when you can't trace Him. All right. So be blessed, y'all. Thank you again. God bless you. I shared on my Facebook too. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate you. And thank you so much. And Bright Eye Nikki, listen, the best time to prepare for marriage is not when you're in marriage, but while you're in your season of singleness. Can single get information? Well, the information for the the coaching program is really for married folks that are married, or if you're engaged to be married. It is a good tool that will help you to prepared for marriage. um, a lot of the information, the first two module or program, it is really transformational because it relates to spiritual growth and personal growth. But the other lessons and the other coaching material are solely for married folks. We go deep, we go in depth, especially when we talk about sex and all of that stuff. And if you're single, it might be too deep for you because we go deep sea diving in these teaching, man. My wife and I. All right, but I think maybe in the near future we will definitely do some stuff for single. But for now, doing two type of channel can be very exhausting and overwhelming because we still have career. All right. But anyway, guys, God bless you. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your love and your support. And I hope you guys hit that like and share and subscribe. And I'm going to try and set up a schedule where I come on maybe at the same time every evening so you guys can actually know what my schedule is to go live. And I will also bring my wife on so we can share our story. And you guys can actually go on our YouTube channel and look at some of the video, especially the last couple of videos that we did. No, no, no. Actually, I think it was in February. We did a video about our 31st wedding anniversary. You guys can go watch that and learn from it and get to know her, get to know us, and yeah, we'll be doing some more videos, some more podcasts together. Our schedules sometimes get real busy, and so it's not always feasible for me to for us to do it together. But man, a lot of love to you guys. Appreciate you all. Be blessed. Have a good night, and I can't wait to see you all soon. Any great. Bye bye.